What is up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Jammin John.
Necrotic, Mick.
And we are bringing you yet another album review. Surprise, surprise. And this one, I'll admit I was pretty hyped for. The single that came out was absolutely scorching, and it's just something I definitely wanted to go over, and I think this guy did too. So we are going to go over the latest offering from Scour with Gold. This also comes out on the 21st of February on Nuclear Blast Records. This band formed in 2015, somewhere in the United States. It doesn't say where, but it's somewhere in the United States. And I guess you could classify this as a supergroup. Features a one Mr. Phil Anselmo from Pantera, Superjoint Ritual, Down, Viking Crown, any number of things. Phil's a busy boy. As well as current and former members of bands like Misery Index, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, and Cattle Decap. So one could say that it is a supergroup.
And they all go black metal, essentially. We had the pleasure of seeing this band in 2019 at MDF, and I had already jammed, I believe, the first two EPs, Red and Gray. So I knew that this was a black metal-centric project. I mean, black metal baseline, there's definitely some other elements in there. We actually went over their black EP, and it was savage, it was disgusting, and oddly, with all this color scheme stuff, it makes you think of Baroness, but not musically.
Yeah, no way. If this is a Baroness comparison, Baroness have moved to hell. I got into them, I think, on the Red EP. It might have been Gray, too. I'm not 100%. I knew they were out, but I don't think I fully heard anything till Red. And then, of course, we saw them live, and then I was hooked from there. And we went over Black, and it was a pretty savage EP, so I also knew what I was getting into here.
So this is their first full length too, and I was kind of wondering, all right, they've had these short, vicious EPs that are pretty much no breaks runs into just flat out caustic, evil sounding black metal. Could they maintain it for an entire full length? And yes. This is quite possibly one of the heaviest things that Phil has ever been involved in. This album is almost a no breaks run of blast beats, cold, icy tremolo riffs, and occasional flips between black metal and like some different genres. Like there's a little bit of grindy energy occasionally. There's definitely some death metal sections, but baseline, there's a lot of black metal, and man, is this dark.
Evil, sinister, pretty much all the things that happen in the dark happen in this record. But man, I want to talk about Phil's vocals. I know we're going to get into that anyway, but I think, and this is a personal statement, I think that Phil sounds the best here that he has ever sounded, and I think that he sounds better doing things like death growls and these icy, cold, blackened screams. I think it suits him better than all of his other projects.
I'm not going to go that far, but when it comes down to like extremity, like these are the most extreme vocals he's ever done. His death roars are low, they're gravelly, they're very intelligible too. And his blackened shrieks, dude, I'll be honest, this almost sounds like a Marduk album. Like Marduk, Shooter, a little bit of Mayhem, Melakesh, fast-paced, icy, and he fits so well in all this. But again, there also are some like flourishes of like some different styles which he adapts to really well, like the song Blades in particular. The fact that there are shorter measures in terms of the riffs, it kind of gives it a little bit more of a grindy feel, and I believe his vocal cadence kind of picks up there. Devil and Hell both have some big, gnarly death metal sections on there.
Yes, they do.
And again, his deeper vocals are exceptional. You even get a couple of moments of like spoken word, because what's an album with Phil and someone without a little bit of, it's not like no fucking goddamn. Or whatever he says during those parts. We love him for it.
Very good friends and a bottle of pills-ish.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this band has a Mr. Adam Jarvis on drums, and if you listen to Misery Index, you know that this guy is a powerhouse of speed and unrelenting blasts. I'm guessing that he remembered his special drum shoes. He did not forget them somewhere at a concert hall in New York. He definitely had them. It is blazing fast, and the man does not let up. I mean, he doesn't let up in Misery Index either, but goddamn, the first 3 or 4 songs in this record are just off to the races, and that's it.
Cross just comes in. Like, you get a snare roll, and then it is off to these, like, light speed blast beats, ridiculous footwork, and it's maintained throughout this entire album. Like, it's insanely fast. Whereas his work in like Pig Destroyer and, Misery Index, you have moments where he breaks up with like more syncopated grooves and such. Here it is predominantly blast beats, and he is just flying at all times.
And if it's not blast beats, it's a D beat, but there's not a whole lot by way of like groove. It's just 340 million beats a minute, and I bet the man isn't even sweating. I've seen him play. He makes it look easy. I hate that.
But he's also clever with a lot of his patterns, like the song Coin. I love the groovy start to that. I mean, it's groovy in terms of the tempo being slower, like the footwork's still absolutely insane. But when he gets down to the blast beat, when they work that riff in, there's this really fun hitch in it, and it makes it really stand out like it's this like little clever, almost kind of like Melakesh-ish sort of hook. There's even some Middle Eastern melodies that pop up on here to kind of further that, Melakesh comparison as well. And despite this being just savagely intense from start to finish, there are spots of melody. And I really wasn't expecting much in the way of melody because, I'll be honest, melody hasn't shown up much on the EPs. But you have some more soaring parts, especially in the song Serve, the closing track. There's brighter melodies on there. They ascend rather than descend, which a lot of these are just like dragging you down to the pits of hell. Almost kind of like post-black metal-ish, like, the kind of like riff work you would hear in like bands like, Harakiri for the Sky, or maybe even Alcest, if I could actually like tolerate that band. Sorry, I'm still not a fan of Alcest. That one live performance I saw where they sang exclusively through their noses just ruined it for me. But luckily we don't have that issue here because Phil's on point, and again, like a lot of this is layered in terms of the vocals because a lot of people are growling in backup too. There's a lot of points where it kind of comes across as like very goat whorish too in terms of the high-low trade-offs. And again, they picked their spots well.
I'd say at least 4, maybe 5 songs on this record do actually have what you might be able to consider as a hook melody. Infusorium has that melody that sticks around almost the entire song. It reminded me a lot of Ulcerate, their newer album. The opening track on the new Ulcerate, how it has that melody that sticks around the whole time. So does Infusorium, as well as songs like Evil and Devil. Yeah, the two play together for sure. There's also a lot of hook melodies going on in there. And then there's even leads as well. Both Insiforium and Coin both have pretty killer leads on them, and I don't remember those being a thing, at least on Red. I could be wrong.
Well, Red and Gray were definitely like more raw sounding. Like in terms of the production jump, that definitely came on Black, which this is produced by a pretty solid team of Dennis Israel and one Jens Bogren, who mastered the album, which is probably why it sounds as good as it does. This reminded me more of like second wave black metal, but with just like a more polished sheen on it. You can still make out like everything on there, but it still has this very icy, cold, dark sound overall. The only thing that I would say it sounds really different is probably the drum work, because they're definitely triggered, but they're moving at Mach 10, so I think that works for me just because that's the speed this album needs to move. And even outside of melody, you do get some interesting interludes, which all the interludes on here were composed by Phil, which I thought was really cool. And they are all appropriately creepy. I know Phil runs his haunted house thing during Halloween season, and I feel like these are probably things that he had, almost probably written up for it just to creep people up, because they are unsettling. Ornaments, Contaminated, and Angels. I mean, they are all dark. They all involve, things that conjure up pleasant memories for some, like a music box. Most people think of a music box as something pleasant. Not Phil. Phil makes it sound horrifying. By the time we got down to Angels, which I just call it Creepy 3, The Creepening, there are fluttered strings in there. There's just these weird ambient swells, and it builds. It builds like it's building towards a jump scare in a horror movie, which had to be intentional. And I can assure you that Angels were definitely harmed in the making of that piece. It's just dark and creepy.
Yep. Made it towards the end and I wanted to go home. I'm going to do some sage scrubbing in my apartment tonight. I think I need it.
I think those interludes were probably the soundtrack to the creature that definitely lives under your bed or in your closet.
Closet or in your shower. You get up in the morning, you go to take a shit, you're still half awake, and then out from behind your shower curtain jumps Phil.
Brr.
Yep, and that's just not the way you want to start. But furthermore, thank you for coming to my apartment. As far as any negatives are concerned, I don't know if I really have a whole lot. I will say that the back half of the record versus the front half. The back half of the record definitely got a little bit more dynamic as it went on. And within those dynamics, it made those songs jump out a little bit more. Because, like, the first, like, 3-4 songs are just off to the races. There's barely any track break. I don't think we actually would have known if there was a track break if we hadn't been staring at the thing, waiting to see when the song ended. So, like, yeah, just the first few songs I thought, while they were awesome, didn't stand out a whole lot. But it's when you get to the back half that it stands out more. So I guess that's a gripe, I guess.
I mean, that's kind of the same one that I had. Like, the first 3 tracks come at you like buckshot. Like, right to the fucking face.
Yep.
They are intense. They are just vicious sounding. But that's kind of like baseline for a lot of this. And I'll agree, like, towards the back half, you start hearing the rhythms get broken up a little bit. Like, Hell in particular, that triplet chug groove that comes in. Nasty. And it was kind of needed at that point because you need something to kind of, like, break the... I would call it high-speed monotony.
Yeah.
Like, it's moving so fast you almost can't call it monotonous, but it is droning on a lot of tremolos. And, you know, I like the harmonized tremolos. A lot of the time, the lead melodies are appropriately creepy and icy cold and occasionally, again, very catchy. But there were points on this album where I felt like, you know, some, like, extra dynamics to kind of break up the... You know, again, blast beats and tremolos on here would be awesome. Like, the biggest dynamic in those sections ended up being Phil's vocals. Like, how he was alternating between the highs and the lows, and again, the weird layering and such. But overall, I thought this was pretty damn solid. Like, this is such a vicious, fast-paced album. Like, this thing moves around like a hamster on meth. Like, if you ever saw Critters 2, the giant critter ball, well, play that at, like, 8 times the speed, and you'll have this album, and it will do what that thing did to people, as in just roll over you and leave you a pile of sticky mush and bones. Overall, I want to give this 4 stars. This is a solid album. Instant Marduk vibes. And in terms of doing high-speed, aggressive black metal, Marduk are kind of the masters. And I think Scour definitely took some notes here. I would say it's about 85% black metal here. I do like the additional flourishes of death metal that come on there. And again, like some grindy energy. Surprised by some of the melodies. And honestly, the melodies work out really well in here. They kind of open this up a little bit, which, you know, at points it does kind of need to be opened up a little bit more past the blazing speed and tremolos. But overall, this is just an enjoyable listen in terms of like, hey, I want something insanely intense, like nonstop, except for like brief periods of creepy noises that will definitely crawl into my dreams. Phil's vocals are amazing on here. Like, he is really adapted to this style, and he sounds just menacing as hell, whether it's the highs or the lows or even some spoken word. Even the end of Serve, where he has this little muttered spoken word, like his last gasps, I feel like that kind of encapsulated this album as in everyone's exhausted. We've been moving at 1 billion miles an hour for this entire album. Let's all take a nap. And then they just said, do we have any more songs? Like, you know what? No. I think we got it. Let's just take a breather. But yeah, if you're a big fan, again, Marduk, Mayhem, Melikesh, Shooter, Urgathal, tons of killer black metal bands mostly. Check this out.
I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 as well. I don't know if I'm going to get it as descriptive as Nick has, because I have only listened to a handful of the bands he recommended, but, you know, whatever. This record is definitely insane. It is intense. It moves at 1 million miles an hour and doesn't really stop. It stops long enough to say something satanic to you and then to remind you that there is something under your bed and it's going to get you when you fall asleep.
Satan's going to eat your butthole.
The drum work is insane, the riffs are pretty nasty, and again, I'm such a sucker for tremolos anymore. I think that's what's making me fall for black metal is nasty, cold, icy, evil-sounding tremolos, and this record is jam-packed full of that. Phil sounds like a goddamn madman. His death growls are amazing. His higher screams are pretty amazing. Like, I think he fits so nicely into this pocket of music. I really think that black metal is Phil's true calling.
I would call like Viking Crown a bit of a false start, but this is good.
Yeah, this is really good. I enjoyed it immensely. Even the creepy interludes, normally I can bitch about interludes as well, but these are definitely unsettling. But yeah, I enjoyed the record. If you like any of the black metal bands that Nick recommended, Marduk I've heard. If you like Marduk, you're probably going to like this. But if you like any of the other black metal bands that Nick recommended that I will one day get into, I would probably recommend checking this out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents, and we offer a members-only live stream, which we'll be doing again at some point, and we might talk about a theme thing. We might just have a general chit-chat. We might share embarrassing stories. Who knows? Those things are kind of wide open. But memberships are the new way to support the channel more directly. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our hats and shirts that is linked down below in the video description. And again, if you would like to join this channel, there's a join button somewhere down here.
It's there. Some people can't find it. I have no problem finding it. I don't understand, but it's okay. If you would like to push that button, push it. If you wouldn't like to push the button, you don't have to push it. The fact that you're here means enough. Tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal, album reviews, discography rankings, multiple discussion forums, Nick's never-ending collection updates, states of metal, is it not metal, live streams, chit-chat. We do stuff all the time here. We do it for you guys because we appreciate you. Thank you to everybody that's a part of this channel. It means the absolute world to us that you still pay attention to us and watch videos, even though I know us and I don't understand it. It baffles me every time that there's so many of you. But we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you, because you're awesome, and we will catch you later.